Do you love Disney? Do you love making money? Do you love not getting sued by one of the largest entertainment companies on the planet? If you answered yes to all three of those questions, then this is the video for you. Now, by the way, this video is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. This is more like information from a friend. So be sure to do your own research on what we're covering. Now, we've all seen the sellers on Etsy and Facebook Marketplace selling custom products with Disney characters on them. So if everyone's doing it, it can't possibly be bad, right? Wrong. Etsy is definitely one of those if everyone jumped off a bridge situations when it comes to trademark and intellectual property violations. The cold hard truth is that if you're making any product that contains trademarked, copyrighted, or other intellectual property without an express license, you're breaking the law. Notice I said making and not just selling. That's because this also applies for personal use items as well. So why isn't Disney suing everybody on Etsy or half the crowd inside of the parks? Honestly, they can't afford to. But just because someone is not getting sued does not mean that they're on the right side of the law. I'm gonna pause here and give another disclaimer. I'm not the trademark police. I don't waste my time policing others on social media, and you should probably save your breath too. However, I know some people make mistakes simply because they aren't aware. The purpose of this video is to raise awareness and hopefully inspire you to get creative and make your own unique, original designs. I'm also gonna share some ideas to help you keep your business legit. If you'd like to hear a first-hand story about what can happen when independent creators violate trademark laws, be sure to check out episode number 20 of the Customizing Culture podcast. I got to sit down with Nick from A&N Custom Prints, and he gave us all the details on his crazy ordeal. We'll have that linked in the description. Let me give you a few examples of what you cannot do. As a general rule of thumb, if you didn't create it, you probably don't have a right to use it, and almost certainly don't have a right to sell it. This means you should not be using original Disney characters and IP or intellectual property in your products, especially if you're selling them. This includes Disney's original characters like Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Lightning McQueen, Captain Jack Sparrow, and literally hundreds of others. It also includes Disney's versions of public domain characters like Snow White, Winnie the Pooh, and others. I will talk more about public domain in a bit. Before we move on, here's something you probably didn't know. You shouldn't even use a style that would lead people to think your product is made by Disney. There's an interesting aspect of trademark law called trade dress that protects styles, characteristics, and even colors in some cases. The most popular example is probably Coca-Cola. Trade dress protects not only the shape of their bottles, but also the specific shade of red used in their packaging. So even though something like The Little Mermaid might be public domain, you cannot use the same fonts, colors, and styling as the original Disney films and productions. To use sports teams as an example, I can make t-shirts in black and white that say Los Angeles on them all day because you can't trademark a city name. But the moment I make that shirt in purple and gold and add a little basketball in the background, boom, I've just infringed on the LA Lakers trade dress. There's way too much to cover in this video, so I would encourage you to take some time to research trade dress if you think you have a few designs that might fall into that gray area. Now we can dive into what you can do. Here's where you could really let your own original creativity shine. There are lots of general, non-trademarked, non-copyrighted words and terms. For example, nobody has a trademark on pixie dust, magic, churro, princess, or prince. These are currently fair game for you. As long as you're careful about trade dress, you can have a field day with these. One of my friends and favorite content creators of all time stopped by our podcast and told the story of his most successful t-shirt. This shirt was Disney inspired, but totally original and lawsuit proof. If you want to hear the story, check out episode 2 of Customizing Culture featuring Big Brando. I'll have it linked in the description as well. Earlier in this video, I mentioned public domain. Now in general, and yes there are exceptions, original works enter the public domain in the United States 70 years after the author's death, or 95 years after creation. Works in the public domain are owned by the public, meaning anyone can use them for their own purposes, including creating new works or products. Walt Disney really took advantage of this law, and that's why many of the Disney classics are actually based off of public domain stories like Beauty and the Beast, Snow White, The Jungle Book, Cinderella, and more. You can and should take a page out of Walt Disney's own playbook and incorporate public domain characters into your original designs. The names, places, characters, storylines, and other elements of these works are all fair game. But I have to warn you, the original works are public domain, not the Disney versions. So while anything from the original versions can be used for free, the Disney versions of those stories are still protected. For example, the original A.A. Milne version of Winnie the Pooh recently entered the public domain. So you can say Winnie the Pooh all day long. You just can't use Disney's cartoon version of Winnie the Pooh. Steamboat Willie is a really interesting case. This is an original Disney creation, but because it's so old, it's actually set to enter the public domain on January 1st, 2024. But remember, just because Steamboat Willie will be in the public domain does not mean that newer versions of Mickey Mouse are. It's just the 1928 short film, Steamboat Willie. An interesting gray area is for theme park fanware for yourself. It seems to be where Disney turns a blind eye intentionally. Now, in all my research, I've only found one single source from Disney that speaks directly on this topic. It's from an old blog post on the Disney website, but it's official and it's directly from Disney. This post is actually still up as of the publishing of this video, and you better believe I've screenshotted the heck out of it for my reference. Now, I wouldn't build a career off of this, but it should give you a little peace of mind if you're gonna use your heat transfer equipment to make some custom gear for your family's next trip. My parting advice for you is to always do your own due diligence. You have all the knowledge of the modern world at your fingertips, so you really have no excuse. Always check for trademark or copyright on new work. Not even just for Disney. You don't know how many times I thought I had an original idea, and it turns out somebody else had that same idea like 2 years before me. One thing I found is that if it's been in a Disney movie, it's probably trademarked, but hey, it doesn't hurt to check. You should learn how to use the US Patent and Trademark Office website, which is uspto.gov/trademarks/search. Of course, we're linking that below. Also, if you're using Google to find information sources, be sure they're legitimate. Verify your source's source. At the time of this video, AI programs like ChatGPT were not providing reliable information regarding intellectual property laws. We also found that when asked to generate new ideas for sayings and phrases to put on t-shirts, AI would very often plagiarize existing work. So at this time, we do not recommend using AI as your sole source of information or inspiration. Be sure to double check anything you source from AI. I hope this video has been helpful. The intention here is not to bash or condemn anyone. I'm really just a big fan of Disney, big fan of heat pressing, and a bigger fan of not getting sued. As creators, we have to look out for each other. Again, please do your own research and reach out to a legal professional if you have any doubts or question about your own artwork or products. For more helpful heat pressing content, hit that subscribe button. And remember, you can get all of your heat transfer equipment and supplies at heatpressnation.com.